I had dreamed of this moment for as long as I could remember. Every sleepless night, every silent tear, every penny saved, it all led to the grand opening of my restaurant. But this was no ordinary restaurant, it was a place where magic lived in every detail. The candles changed color according to my mood, the dishes floated gently before being served, and the aroma of the food evoked forgotten memories, both sweet and painful. When the clock struck 7, I felt my heart almost explode with anticipation. I opened the doors, and a sparkling wind entered, as if the night itself was eager with me. The first guests arrived, but they were strangers, curious yet lacking the warmth I desperately hoped for. I searched for my family in every face, longing for smiles and embraces that never came. With every passing minute, my chest tightened more. The silence between the tables seemed to scream my loneliness, and the distant laughter reminded me of the absence I feared most. The walls, which should have vibrated with joy, seemed to whisper dark secrets. You are alone. Tears began to fall without warning, burning my cheeks as I watched the magic of the restaurant, which seemed to feel my pain. Suddenly, a small blue light rose from the floor, spinning around me. It was as if the place itself was embracing me, whispering that my story would not end here. In that moment, I realized my grand opening had become my greatest disappointment. But I also felt, deep within every fiber of my being, that something extraordinary was about to happen, a journey that would test my courage, my creativity, and even the limits of the reality I thought I knew. The restaurant was empty now, the last of the curious strangers having left hours ago. I stood alone amidst the flickering candles, my body trembling with a strange mixture of exhaustion, despair, and something I couldn't quite name. Then I noticed it. The small blue light from earlier had not disappeared. Instead, it hovered before me, pulsating gently like a heartbeat. Tentatively, I reached out my hand. The light drifted closer, weaving between my fingers without burning me. A whisper echoed in my mind, "Do not give up. Your story is just beginning." I blinked, unsure if the voice was real or a trick of my overwhelmed mind. But the feeling of warmth, of hope, coursing through me was undeniable. As I wandered through the quiet restaurant, the magic began to reveal itself in subtle, strange ways. The dishes on the tables shimmered faintly, as though remembering the meals they were meant to serve. The aroma of my carefully prepared food shifted. Now it carried not just memories, but emotions, tangible and aching. The scent of my mother's laughter from childhood floated through the air, mingling with the sharp sting of old regrets. Then came the first real test. The chandelier above began to sway violently, though no wind entered. Plates trembled and glasses rattled. Panic surged, but the blue light formed a protective circle around me, calming my racing heart. A voice, deeper now and tinged with ancient power, spoke. "You have been chosen, though you know it not. Your heart carries the courage needed to awaken what has slumbered." I realized, with a mix of fear and awe, that my restaurant was alive, imbued with magic that responded to my feelings, my intentions. Every joy, every heartbreak, every whisper of hope I had ever known had fed it. And yet, it was restless, demanding more than I had ever imagined I could give. That night, I discovered a hidden door behind the wine cellar, previously unnoticed. It glimmered faintly, etched with symbols that shifted when I looked directly at them. Compelled, I stepped forward, and the door opened into a world that seemed both familiar and impossibly alien. Shadows danced along the walls, not threatening but beckoning. A soft wind carried voices, old, forgotten voices, perhaps the echoes of those who had loved, lost, or dared to dream in this very space. I hesitated. Part of me screamed to retreat, to close the door and return to the normal life I had painstakingly built. But another part, the part that had spent decades dreaming, crying, and believing, pushed me forward. The restaurant, my heart, and the mysterious blue light urged me onward. Stepping through, I found myself in a vast hall, endless and dimly lit, where floating orbs of light hovered like stars. In the distance, a figure approached, tall, cloaked in shadows yet radiating a warmth that made my soul ache with recognition. "Welcome," the figure said, voice echoing in the hall and in my mind. "You are ready to see what lies beyond your fears. But be warned, what you seek will challenge every part of you. You will laugh, you will cry, and you will fight, for the very essence of your dreams." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of my own disbelief. And yet, as I looked around, I realized something incredible. The disappointment of my grand opening, the loneliness, the heartache, was not an end. It was a beginning. Every failure, every moment of despair had shaped me, and now it was fueling something far greater than I had ever imagined. The blue light spiraled upward, faster and brighter, illuminating the hall. My heart, trembling and full of hope, knew one undeniable truth: my journey had just begun, and the magic that had chosen me would not let me turn back. And in that moment, I understood: the restaurant, my life, and this new world were all threads in a tapestry I was only beginning to weave. A story of courage, of heart, and of wonders that no ordinary life could ever contain. The hall stretched endlessly, yet I could feel the weight of the world pressing in. The cloaked figure had vanished, leaving only the blue light spinning around me like a heartbeat I could follow. Every step I took echoed through the endless space, and with each echo, I felt memories, joyful, sorrowful, forgotten, stir within me. My heart ached and swelled simultaneously. This was no ordinary journey. This was a journey through the raw essence of my own soul. I realized then that the magic of the restaurant wasn't just in its walls or its floating dishes, it was in me. Every dream, every fear, every quiet moment of hope had fed it, and now, it demanded I face the deepest corners of myself. Ahead, I saw 3 doorways, each carved with intricate runes that shifted like liquid under my gaze. A whisper curled around me, barely audible: choose wisely, for each path will shape not only your destiny, but the fate of all you hold dear. I hesitated, fear clawing at my chest. One doorway shimmered with golden light, warm and inviting, another glowed crimson, fierce and dangerous, the last pulsed with a deep, violet shadow, mysterious and unknown. My instinct urged me toward the golden light. It was comforting, familiar, safe, but a deeper voice inside me whispered that courage was not comfort, and growth was not safety. I chose the violet doorway. The moment I stepped through, the floor seemed to vanish beneath me, and I fell into darkness. I was weightless, spinning through voids of memory and emotion. I saw flashes of my childhood, laughter with my mother, moments of pride and shame, fleeting glimpses of people I had loved and lost. And then, the disappointment, the grand opening night, the empty tables, the silence of absence, burned brighter than all the rest. My tears mingled with the darkness, yet instead of drowning me, they illuminated the path ahead. I landed softly in a vast garden under a twilight sky. The stars shimmered like crystals, and the air was thick with the scent of unknown flowers, sweet yet tinged with melancholy. It was beautiful and haunting. Somewhere in the distance, a soft melody floated toward me, a song of longing and courage intertwined. I followed it, my footsteps lighter than they had been in years, though my heart still carried the ache of that fateful night. At the center of the garden stood a figure. Unlike the shadowed figure before, this one radiated warmth and wisdom. Their eyes held galaxies, and their voice was like a song that resonated in my bones. You are ready, they said, their words both gentle and firm. But the path ahead is not simple. To awaken the true magic of your heart and your restaurant, you must confront 3 trials: the trial of fear, the trial of grief, and the trial of hope. Only by facing them will your dreams take form in ways even you cannot imagine. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, but I nodded. The first trial, the trial of fear, manifested instantly. Shadows surged from the ground, forming monstrous shapes, whispering every insecurity I had ever carried: you are alone. You are a failure. You will never be enough. I felt my knees buckle, the familiar weight of despair pressing down. But then the blue light appeared, circling me faster, shielding me, reminding me of the strength I had built through every lonely night, every tear, every unspoken hope. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. I am enough, I whispered, and the shadows recoiled, hissing but unable to break the shield. My courage grew with every step, and soon the shadows dissipated entirely, leaving only a soft glow illuminating the path ahead. Next came the trial of grief. A mirror appeared, showing scenes of loss and disappointment, family who had not supported me, friends who had turned away, moments where I had faltered. My heart broke again, but this time, I allowed the pain to flow through me. I wept openly, letting the grief wash over me instead of resisting it. And in doing so, I felt a transformation. Each tear nourished the magic around me, strengthening the connection between my heart and the enchanted world I had stepped into. Finally, the trial of hope. This trial was different. There was no fear, no grief, only uncertainty. A forked path stretched before me, endlessly branching into infinite possibilities. I could choose comfort, safety, or risk. I could remain in the shadows of disappointment, or I could step boldly into the unknown, trusting the magic that had guided me this far. My hand hovered over the path that shimmered faintly violet, the same color as the doorway I had chosen. My heart trembled, but I stepped forward, embracing the uncertainty, embracing hope. The garden shifted, and suddenly I was back in my restaurant. But everything was different. The walls glowed with a gentle, welcoming light. Candles floated gracefully, casting playful shadows. The dishes shimmered with energy, inviting unseen guests. And in the center of it all, the blue light hovered above a single, empty table, a table meant for my family, for those I had longed to see. I realized then that the journey had only begun. The trials had awakened a new magic within me, a magic that could heal, transform, and manifest dreams. My heart, once heavy with loneliness and disappointment, now burned with a fierce, unshakable hope. And I knew, without a doubt, that no matter what trials awaited me next, I would face them, not just as a chef, not just as a dreamer, but as someone chosen to wield the extraordinary magic that had always lived within my soul. The next morning, or what felt like morning in the magical rhythm of the restaurant, I awoke on the floor of the main dining hall. The blue light hovered above me, softer now, like a heartbeat syncing with my own. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the building itself were holding its breath. I stood, taking in the incredible transformation. Tables floated slightly above the floor, shimmering silver cutlery glided gently across polished wooden surfaces, and the aroma of dishes I had not yet prepared wafted through the air, infused with enchantments I had only begun to understand. But magic, I quickly realized, was not just beautiful, it was demanding. The restaurant required me to feel it, to pour every ounce of emotion, memory, and intention into it. When I tried to force a dish to appear on a table, it fizzled and vanished. When I attempted to light a candle, it sputtered, revealing the shadows of doubt lingering inside me. The magic responded only to authenticity. It demanded me, all of me, with no masks, no pretenses. As I experimented, a soft sound caught my attention. The swinging door to the kitchen opened, though no hand had moved it. From the shadows emerged a figure, a young woman, her eyes glowing faintly gold, her presence calm but powerful. She introduced herself as Hilaire, a guardian of the enchanted hearth, a magical spirit who guided dreamers like me. "You are progressing," she said, her voice melodic yet firm, "but alone, your magic will remain small. You must learn to channel it, to share it. Your restaurant is not just a place for food, it is a portal. It connects hearts, memories, and worlds." Before I could respond, the restaurant trembled violently. The blue light spun faster, and I felt a surge of fear that threatened to overwhelm me. From the shadows, a ripple of dark energy emerged, taking the form of a man, sharp-featured, eyes glinting with malice. He was tall, and every movement exuded power and control. "So, this is the one chosen by the magic," he sneered. "A naive dreamer, trying to wield forces far beyond your comprehension." Hilaire stepped between us. "He is the Shadow Keeper," she said. "He feeds on doubt and despair. He will test you in ways that will make the trials you faced earlier seem trivial." My heart raced. Every memory of failure, every pang of loneliness, surged in my chest. The Shadow Keeper extended a hand, and suddenly, the restaurant's walls dissolved into darkness. Tables became jagged stones, candles flickered into black flames, and the aroma of food twisted into something bitter and heavy. I wanted to run, but the blue light held me steady. "You will not defeat me," I whispered to myself, "but I will not fall either." The battle began, not a battle of swords or fists, but of wills and emotions. The Shadow Keeper hurled visions at me, my family leaving me again, every critic I had ever faced, the loneliness of the grand opening replayed 100 times in a loop. Each vision was sharper than reality, each pang more painful than any I had ever felt. But then I remembered the garden, the trials, and the blue light. I remembered Hilaire's words, "You must channel your magic, not fight it." I closed my eyes, reaching into my heart. I thought of every act of love I had ever experienced, every meal I had poured my soul into, every tear and laugh and whispered hope. The blue light expanded, wrapping around me like a cocoon. I felt my power surge, no longer fragile and uncertain, but focused and immense. The Shadow Keeper roared as my magic collided with his, creating waves of energy that shimmered through the restaurant. But this time, I was not alone. Hilaire's presence amplified my strength, and the restaurant itself responded, walls glowing with warmth, dishes floating, candles dancing in rhythm with my heartbeat. Finally, with a surge of light that split the darkness, the Shadow Keeper screamed and dissolved into shadows, leaving only silence and a gentle warmth behind. I collapsed to my knees, breathless but triumphant. The restaurant was alive now, not just with magic, but with purpose. It pulsed with energy, waiting to welcome the hearts of those who needed it, to connect them through emotion, memory, and wonder. Hilaire approached, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You have passed your greatest test," she said. "But this is only the beginning. Others will come, seekers, skeptics, even enemies. Your heart, your courage, and your magic will be tested again and again. But you have proven one truth: the magic responds to the soul that is willing to feel, to suffer, and to hope." I looked around, the restaurant glowing with a beauty I had never imagined. I thought of my family, of the empty tables on the night of my grand opening. And I knew, deep inside, that the magic I had awakened could bridge even that gap. The journey ahead was uncertain, and danger lingered, but for the first time, I felt truly ready. My restaurant was no longer just a building, no longer just a dream, it was alive. It was a living testament to hope, courage, and the extraordinary power of the human heart. And I knew, as I stood in the center of my enchanted domain, that I would face whatever came next, not with fear, but with every ounce of passion and magic that burned within me. The morning after the Shadowkeeper's defeat, the restaurant hummed with a quiet energy I had never experienced. Sunlight, or some magical equivalent, filtered through the windows, making the floating candles sparkle like tiny stars. I moved through the hall, touching the tables and walls, feeling the pulse of life that coursed through every corner of the building. This was no longer just a restaurant, it was a living entity, sensitive to emotions, thoughts, and dreams. I was still marveling at the transformation when I heard a soft chime, not unlike the tinkle of wind through crystal. At the entrance stood a small, delicate figure, cloaked in silver and green, with wings that shimmered like dragonfly wings under sunlight. She introduced herself as Lyriel, a messenger of the enchanted courts. Her voice was melodic, carrying the weight of authority, yet gentle. "You have awakened the hearth," she said, "and its power is now visible to the realms beyond. Seekers will come, those who desire guidance, those who seek refuge, and those who wish to test your strength." Before I could respond, a sudden flurry of movement erupted around the restaurant. Creatures emerged from the shadows, foxes with fur of silver flame, tiny sprites that glittered like rain, and even spectral birds whose wings carried whispers of forgotten songs. None were threatening, each seemed drawn to the energy I had nurtured, curious and cautious. As I watched, Lyriel explained, "These are the first of many. Some will aid you, others will challenge you. You must learn to communicate with them, to understand the balance of this realm. Your magic is tied to your heart and your actions. Only through understanding and trust can your power reach its fullest potential." Days, or perhaps weeks, in the strange flow of magical time, passed. I learned to speak to the creatures, to feel their needs and fears. The blue light, ever present, guided me, forming patterns and symbols that revealed the ancient rules of the hearth. Recipes I had once prepared with mundane skill now transformed into spells. A soup could heal exhaustion, a bread could ease sorrow, a dessert could unlock memories long buried. Every dish became a conduit for magic, every flavor and emotion made tangible. But with growth came challenge. One evening, the doors burst open, and a group of skeptics entered. They were human, yet their presence carried a subtle, draining energy that seemed to dull the magic around them. Their eyes were sharp, suspicious, and unkind. "This is nonsense," one said. "You're playing with illusions. People come here for food, not tricks." I felt the magic flicker, uncertain. The hearth pulsed nervously, and the creatures retreated into the shadows. I took a deep breath, focusing on my own heart, recalling every trial I had endured, the loneliness of my grand opening, the confrontation with the Shadowkeeper, the lessons from Elea and Lyriel. I decided to act. I prepared a simple dish, my mother's favorite recipe, infused with memories of love, warmth, and hope. As the skeptics took their first bites, I watched their expressions change. Their eyes softened, the tension in their shoulders eased, and a quiet awe replaced their doubt. They had tasted not just food, but emotion, magic, and the power of a heart willing to believe. Word spread quickly. Seekers arrived from near and far, chefs seeking inspiration, travelers seeking refuge, and even mystical beings who could cross the veil between worlds. Each visitor brought new challenges. Some were testing the hearth's limits, others seeking to exploit its power, and a few simply wished to learn. One night, as I closed the restaurant and the blue light hovered above me, I sensed a presence unlike any before, a shadow deeper than the Shadowkeeper, yet tinged with curiosity rather than malice. It whispered in a voice that was at once my own and not my own, "You have grown, dreamer. But are you ready for the trial that will define the hearth's true power?" A chill ran down my spine. The hearth pulsed beneath my feet, alive with excitement and fear. I knew this trial would not be simple, it would test my skill, my courage, and the very essence of my soul. And yet, despite the uncertainty, I felt a fierce exhilaration. The restaurant was no longer merely a building, it was a living testament to hope, courage, and magic. It was a bridge between worlds, a beacon for those who dared to dream, and a crucible that would forge me into something extraordinary. I took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the hearth coursing through me, and whispered, "I am ready." The doors of the restaurant glowed with a golden light, and I knew that the next chapter of my journey, the trial, the challenges, the mysteries, was about to begin. Not just for me, but for every heart, every memory, and every soul that would come to the hearth seeking magic, hope, and transformation. And in that moment, I realized something profound. I had gone from a chef whose family abandoned him on the night of his greatest dream, to the guardian of a living, breathing magical realm, a place where courage, love, and imagination could change reality itself. The adventure was only beginning, and I knew there was no turning back. The golden glow from the restaurant's doors had barely faded when the air shifted. The hearth pulsed faster than I had ever felt, like a heartbeat ready to burst. The creatures I had come to know, silver flame foxes, sprites, and spectral birds, gathered nervously, sensing a presence that made even their ethereal forms shiver. Lyriel appeared beside me, her eyes grave. "They are coming," she whispered. "Not all who seek your hearth come with pure intentions. The shadow factions have learned of your awakening. They will test you, and they will seek to claim the magic you have nurtured." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Shadow factions, ancient entities who thrived on fear, manipulation, and stolen magic, were said to be unstoppable by ordinary means. Yet I had survived the Shadow Keeper. Perhaps, I thought, survival was not about strength alone but about connection, courage, and belief. Before I could gather my thoughts, the restaurant trembled violently, the windows darkened, and the air thickened, charged with power. From the shadows beyond the doors, figures emerged, tall, shifting forms, each cloaked in darkness yet flickering with hints of color. One radiated crimson rage, another blue sorrow, and the third green envy. Together, they represented the primal emotions that fed the shadow factions, their collective presence sucking at the very magic of the hearth. I swallowed, feeling a knot of fear, but then the blue light spun around me, faster than ever. I reached deep into my heart, calling on every memory of hope, every sacrifice, every tear shed in loneliness and perseverance. The hearth responded instantly, walls pulsing, dishes lifting, candles brightening. The entire restaurant became a shield and weapon all at once. Elera appeared beside me. "You cannot fight them with force alone," she warned. "The hearth responds to heart, not fear. You must show them the truth of your power, courage, empathy, and the willingness to share it with others." I nodded, closing my eyes. I summoned an image of the night of my grand opening, the emptiness, the longing for family, the disappointment that had burned like fire in my chest. But this time, I didn't focus on the pain alone. I remembered how I had risen from it, how every failure, every lonely moment had fueled the magic I now commanded. Opening my eyes, I extended my hands. From the hearth, a wave of energy burst forth, not destructive, but radiant, tangible hope. It reached the shadow factions, and something incredible happened. The crimson, blue, and green forms began to falter, not because they were defeated, but because they were understood. They could feel my courage, my empathy, my willingness to transform pain into light. "Your magic is unusual," hissed the crimson faction, voice like fire. "Most wield power to dominate. You wield it to heal." "Yes," I said, voice steady, "and that is why you cannot take it from me." The factions hesitated, their forms wavering. The blue light swirled faster, wrapping around me and merging with the hearth. The creatures of the restaurant, emboldened, joined the energy, sprites weaving intricate patterns of light, silver flame foxes leaping and forming protective circles, and the spectral birds singing in harmonies that strengthened the magic. Finally, the shadow factions recoiled, their forms fracturing into fragments of smoke and shadow, retreating into the void from which they came. The hearth pulsed with relief and joy, the restaurant glowing brighter than ever. Exhausted but triumphant, I sank into a chair, the creatures settling around me like a protective aura. Lyriel and Elera appeared together, nodding approvingly. "You have passed the trial of the hearth," Lyriel said softly. "You have not only defended your magic but strengthened it. But remember, the factions will return. The world beyond your walls is filled with those who covet power, and some may not respond to hope and courage as the hearth does. You must continue to grow, to learn, and to protect what you have awakened." Elera placed a hand on my shoulder. "And yet, you are no longer alone. You have allies, creatures who understand you, and magic that is uniquely yours. You are no longer the lonely dreamer abandoned on your grand opening night. You are the guardian of the enchanted hearth." A calm settled over the restaurant, though I knew it was only temporary. Beyond the doors, beyond the realms I had glimpsed, challenges awaited, rival factions, mystical creatures, and seekers who would test the very limits of my abilities. But for the first time, I felt ready. My heart was no longer heavy with loneliness or fear. It was alive with courage, empathy, and the unshakable determination to protect the magic I had nurtured. That night, I walked through the dining hall, touching each table, feeling the hearth pulse beneath my fingertips. The creatures around me murmured their approval, the candles flickered in harmony, and the blue light floated above, gentle and steadfast. My restaurant was more than a dream, more than a building. It was a living, breathing, magical sanctuary, capable of changing hearts, minds, and worlds. And in the quiet, I made a vow: no matter the darkness, no matter the challenges, no matter the trials yet to come, I would stand. I would nurture the hearth, protect the magic, and honor the journey that had transformed me from a lonely chef into a guardian of a realm that defied imagination. Because I had learned the most important truth of all: true magic, the kind that changes reality, flows from the heart that is willing to feel, to hope, and to fight for the dreams that matter most. And so my adventure continued, the doors of the restaurant glowing like a beacon in the dark, welcoming not just seekers and dreamers, but a destiny that was larger, stranger, and far more magical than I had ever imagined. The restaurant was alive with magic, more alive than ever. Every corner pulsed with energy: the floating candles, the silver flame foxes, the sprites, and the spectral birds. The blue light hovered above the hearth, now a radiant beacon that connected my soul to the entire enchanted domain. But even as I marveled at the progress, a shadow loomed on the edges of my awareness, an unease I could not shake. It began subtly at first. Patrons and mystical visitors reported fleeting visions of dark figures watching from beyond the doors. The hearth pulsed irregularly, flickering like a candle in a gust of wind. The creatures grew restless, huddling together as if anticipating a storm. Lyriel and Ilaire appeared beside me, their expressions grave. "The Shadow Fact Irons were only scouts," Lyriel said. "They have returned, stronger and more cunning. And they are not alone. A force older than the hearth itself seeks to claim it, an ancient council of rival Magikians, guardians of forbidden powers, and creatures that do not understand mercy." Ilaire placed her hand on my shoulder. "This is the first great trial of your hearth. It will test not just your magic, but your heart, your mind, and your ability to inspire and lead. You cannot face this alone. You must call upon every ally, every lesson, and every ounce of courage you have." I took a deep breath, focusing on the hearth, feeling its pulse synchronize with my own heartbeat. The golden glow of hope radiated outward, touching every creature, every enchanted object in the restaurant. My heart was steady. I had faced loneliness, fear, grief, and despair, but this trial would test me on a scale I had never imagined. Within hours, the assault began. The doors burst open, and a legion of shadowy figures poured in, their forms ever-shifting, powered by fear, envy, and malice. They were the first wave, a glimpse of the larger army that awaited beyond the veil. The hearth reacted instantly, energy flaring like a storm. The floating candles transformed into swords of light, the dishes became shields, and the creatures leaped into the fray with a courage I could barely comprehend. I stood at the center, hands raised, summoning every memory and every feeling that had shaped me. I called upon the magic of love, hope, and resilience. The blue light expanded, wrapping the entire dining hall in a cocoon of energy that radiated outward. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the warmth and light, but they kept coming, relentless. Then came the unexpected. A group of visitors I had helped in previous days emerged from the edges of the restaurant. A chef who had once doubted my magic now wielded a glowing pan that sent waves of healing energy across the battlefield. A traveler, lost in despair before, now carried a lantern that revealed hidden truths, dispelling illusions the shadows tried to create. Even the mystical creatures I had befriended coordinated in ways I had never seen: silver flame foxes forming protective barriers, sprites creating illusions that confused the attackers, and spectral birds weaving sonic spells that disrupted the enemy's coordination. Despite the chaos, I felt an exhilaration I could not describe. Every pulse of the hearth resonated through me, every beat of the blue light empowering me. I realized that the magic of the restaurant was alive because of the hearts within it, mine and those who believed in it. The shadow faction's leaders appeared, colossal figures towering over the battlefield. Their power was immense, their forms shifting with rage, envy, and sorrow. I knew that a direct confrontation was inevitable. I stepped forward, feeling the hearth wrap around me like armor. I drew upon every emotion I had ever felt: fear, loneliness, grief, hope, love, determination, and channeled it into a single beam of radiant energy that collided with the shadow leaders. The clash was cataclysmic. Energy rippled through the restaurant, shaking walls, sending dishes flying, and scattering the creatures. I felt my strength faltering, but then the blue light merged fully with the hearth. I heard whispers, not threats, but encouragement, echoes of every soul who had touched the restaurant, every visitor, every dreamer, and even my own past self. They called out in harmony: "You are ready. We are with you. You are never alone." With a surge of power, I projected my heart through the hearth. The light was blinding, expanding far beyond the walls of the restaurant, touching every shadow, every fragment of darkness, transforming it. The shadow leaders screamed, not from pain, but from recognition. Their rage and envy could not withstand the purity of hope and courage. Slowly, the darkness dissipated, leaving only the soft glow of the hearth, steady and eternal. Exhausted, I sank to the floor, tears of relief and triumph streaming down my face. The creatures gathered around me, their energy mingling with the hearth, creating a harmony that resonated like a symphony. Lyriel and Elaire approached, their expressions softening. "You have not only survived," Lyriel said, "but you have proven something extraordinary. You have transformed the hearth from a sanctuary into a beacon. Its magic now reaches beyond realms, touching hearts that will carry it forward." Elaire added, "But remember, this is only the beginning. The trial revealed truths you could not yet see. The hearth is connected to forces far greater than any one being, and its destiny will be shaped not just by courage, but by wisdom, empathy, and the bonds you forge." I looked around, seeing the glowing tables, the floating candles, the creatures at peace, and the blue light hovering above. I realized something profound: the restaurant was no longer mine alone. It belonged to everyone who had touched it, every dreamer who had believed, every heart that had dared to hope. And in that moment, I knew the path ahead would be more dangerous, more challenging, and more magical than anything I had ever faced. But I also knew that I was ready for the trials, the battles, and the wonders that awaited. I was no longer the lonely chef abandoned on my grand opening night. I was the guardian of the enchanted hearth, and the journey had only just begun. The calm after the first great trial was short-lived. Even as the hearth pulsed steadily, whispering with renewed life, I could feel tremors of a deeper magic stirring beneath the restaurant. The blue light hovered above me, radiant and patient, yet I sensed it held secrets I had yet to uncover. Lyriel appeared first, her golden eyes reflecting both awe and concern. "The hearth is awakening beyond its initial design," she said softly. "Its power stretches across realms, touching energies older than this world. You have survived the first wave of challenges, but now, the true test begins." Elaire stepped beside her, nodding. "There are forces aware of the hearth's existence, magical lineages, ancient guardians, and hidden realms that have remained dormant for centuries. They will see you not just as a guardian, but as a rival, a threat, and a potential key to unlocking or destroying worlds." I swallowed, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over me like a heavy cloak. The restaurant no longer felt confined to walls or time. It was expanding, breathing into dimensions I had only glimpsed in fleeting visions during the trials. Floating lights shimmered like stars across the dining hall, and the air was thick with a power both familiar and alien. The first challenge arrived suddenly. A rift opened in the ceiling, a swirling vortex of violet and black, and from it emerged beings that defied comprehension. Their forms flickered between shapes, serpentine shadows, wings of living flame, eyes that glimmered with galaxies. They spoke without words, projecting images directly into my mind: realms collapsing, hearths consumed by darkness, hearts succumbing to despair. I felt fear clawing at me, the weight of countless souls pressing into my chest. But I drew on every lesson I had learned: the trials of fear, grief, and hope, the confrontation with the Shadowkeeper, the great battle against the Shadow Factions. The hearth responded, pulsing with an intensity that resonated through my very bones. I raised my hands, and the energy of the restaurant poured outward. Candles became floating orbs of light, dishes became shields of shimmering energy, and my creatures, sprites, silver flame foxes, spectral birds, formed protective formations that radiated cohesion and intelligence. The blue light expanded, spiraling outward to touch the rift itself. Then came the revelation: the hearth was not merely a conduit of magic. It was a nexus, a bridge connecting multiple realms, both seen and unseen. Every challenge I had faced, every tear, every act of courage and hope, had strengthened it, preparing it for this very moment. And now, it sought to test whether I could wield its full potential responsibly. Lyriel and Elaire appeared on either side of me, their voices merging with the hearth's hum. "You must channel the hearth," Lyriel said. "Not just to defend, but to harmonize. Each realm, each being, each fragment of energy must find balance within it." Elaire added, "This is the ultimate trial. If you falter, the hearth will fracture, and the worlds it touches may collapse or fall into chaos. But if you succeed, it will transcend its form, becoming a living nexus of magic and life." I closed my eyes, feeling the energy of every being I had encountered: the skeptics who had tasted my enchanted food and been transformed, the mystical creatures who had fought and guided me, the spirits of hope and love that had bolstered me through every trial. I let my own heart open fully, pouring courage, empathy, and unshakable determination into the hearth. A blinding light erupted, filling the restaurant, expanding through the rift and beyond. The alien shapes paused, shifting as they felt the resonance of pure intent. I could sense their histories, their pains, their fears, but rather than fighting them, I reached out, connecting through the hearth, transmitting harmony, trust, and the essence of shared purpose. The vortex began to close, not with destruction, but with transformation. The chaotic energies twisted, reshaped, and harmonized, creating bridges between realms instead of tearing them apart. The creatures of the hearth expanded their forms, some becoming guides to new realms, others guardians of the newly woven pathways. I stumbled, exhausted, yet exhilarated, as the blue light hovered above me, now calmer, deeper, and infinitely more radiant. The hearth had changed. It was no longer a restaurant, nor merely a magical sanctuary. It had become a nexus of life, emotion, and energy, a living hub connecting worlds, dreams, and hearts. Lyriel placed a hand on my shoulder. "You have done what few could," she said. "The hearth will remember this moment forever. It will evolve with you, and through you, it will touch countless lives. But know this, its expansion draws attention. New challenges, new seekers, new threats will come. You are now not just a guardian, but a central figure in a web of magic that stretches across existence itself." Elea smiled, a rare warmth breaking through her solemn expression. "And you are ready. You have proven that courage, empathy, and hope are as powerful as any spell or weapon. But this is only the beginning of the stories that will unfold through the hearth. Others will follow, allies and rivals alike, each shaping what comes next." I looked around the transformed restaurant, feeling the pulse of life in every corner, every floating candle, every creature. I realized that the loneliness I had felt on the night of my grand opening was gone, replaced by purpose, responsibility, and a connection to something far greater than myself. For the first time, I understood the true scope of my journey. I was no longer a lonely chef, abandoned and heartbroken. I was the guardian of a living nexus, a bridge between worlds, a beacon of hope and magic that could transform lives, hearts, and realities. And as I stood there, the hearth glowing with infinite potential, I whispered to myself, "No matter what comes next, I am ready. The hearth will endure, and I will endure with it." And in that moment, I knew this was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of a legend. The hearth had become more than a sanctuary. It pulsed with life, radiating energy across dimensions I had never imagined. Each day, new visitors, humans, mystical beings, and creatures from other realms arrived, drawn by the hearth's radiant aura. But with its growth came a realization: the hearth was no longer mine alone. Its expansion had attracted the attention of ancient powers, some benevolent, some dangerous, and some with motives that were impossible to decipher. It began with a visitor, cloaked in white robes that shimmered like moonlight, eyes glowing silver. She introduced herself as Sraphine, emissary of the Council of Realms, an assembly of ancient beings who maintained the balance between worlds. "Guardian of the Hearth," she said, her voice echoing in every corner of the restaurant, "your awakening has reached beyond your realm. The Council has convened to observe, to test, and to guide. But know this, not all members will welcome your power. Some fear what it represents, others see an opportunity to seize it." I felt the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. The hearth was no longer a restaurant, no longer merely a magical sanctuary. It was a nexus of worlds, a focal point of immense power that could shape the fates of countless lives. The council's presence was overwhelming, their energy radiating authority, curiosity, and scrutiny. Sraphine continued, "You have faced trials of fear, grief, and hope, and you have battled the shadow factions. But now you must navigate diplomacy, alliances, and the subtle currents of interrealm politics. The hearth will challenge you in ways no combat ever could. Your decisions will ripple through worlds." Almost immediately, rival factions appeared. The Crimson Order, masters of fire and ambition, sought to harness the hearth's energy to reshape their war-torn realms. The Verdant Covenant, guardians of life and growth, feared its influence could destabilize the natural order. And the Umbral Circle, mysterious and shadowed, coveted the hearth for purposes unknown, their motives shrouded in darkness. The first summit of realms was held within the restaurant. Tables stretched infinitely, lined with emissaries, creatures, and spirits, each radiating their own energy. The air thrummed with tension. Words were exchanged, careful, measured, full of threats disguised as diplomacy. I realized quickly that I would not succeed by magic alone. I would need cunning, empathy, and the ability to see through deception. The council proposed tests to gauge my mastery, challenges that were part puzzle, part combat, part trial of emotion. One test required me to stabilize a fragmenting realm, a small pocket dimension that threatened to collapse, carrying with it the lives of countless sentient beings. I poured every ounce of energy from the hearth into the realm, channeling my own courage, empathy, and hope. Silver flame foxes guided me through chaotic energy streams, sprites formed patterns of light to redirect collapsing pathways, and spectral birds sang harmonies that stabilized the realm's foundation. Another challenge was subtler, to mediate between the Crimson Order and the Verdant Covenant, whose centuries-old enmity had erupted again at the council table. Words alone failed at first, until I used the hearth's magic to project their memories, showing them the shared tragedies, hopes, and aspirations that bound their fates together. Slowly, understanding flickered in their eyes, grudging respect replacing hostility. Amid these trials, I discovered something extraordinary about myself. My bond with the hearth went deeper than I had known. It resonated not just with emotion or intention, but with lineage. Hidden within my very bloodline were traces of ancient guardians, beings who had shaped realms and nurtured magical nexuses before. My ancestors had infused fragments of their power into my lineage, waiting for the right soul to awaken the hearth fully. This revelation shook me. The loneliness, the struggles, the failures, they were not mere happenstance. They had prepared me for this awakening, building the resilience, empathy, and courage needed to channel this ancient legacy. I was not just a guardian by chance. I was chosen by lineage, experience, and heart. As the council observed, I faced the final test, a vision of the hearth under siege, not by shadows or rival factions, but by entropy itself, a force that consumed magic indiscriminately, leaving realms in decay. I felt every heartbeat of the hearth, every pulse of its life, and I realized the truth: I could not fight alone. I had allies, the creatures, the visitors, the factions who had seen the hearth's potential, and even the council members who recognized the value of unity over division. I reached into the hearth with every fiber of my being, calling upon every ally, every lesson, every fragment of magic I had inherited and nurtured. The blue light surged, expanding beyond the restaurant, merging with the energies of the realms themselves. The hearth became a beacon, a nexus of balance, harmonizing the chaos, stabilizing the dimensions, and binding the factions in a temporary truce born of mutual necessity. Exhausted but resolute, I realized that the hearth was evolving again. It was no longer a building, a restaurant, or a nexus. It was a living entity, aware, responsive, and capable of growth beyond imagination. My role as guardian had expanded. I was now the anchor, mediator, and protector of an interrealm network of magic, hope, and life. Trifine approached, her silver eyes glowing softly. "Guardian," she said, "you have surpassed expectations. The hearth is safe, for now, but remember, its awakening has set forces in motion that even the council cannot fully predict. You must continue to grow, to learn, and to lead. Your journey is far from over, and the next trials will test the very limits of your power and resolve." I looked around at the restaurant, the creatures, the factions, and the hearth itself. I thought back to the night of my grand opening, when I had stood alone, heartbroken, facing empty tables and silence. That person, lonely and desperate, had led me to this moment, a guardian of worlds, a bearer of hope, a wielder of magic that transcended understanding. And in that quiet, pulsing light, I whispered to myself, "I am ready. The hearth will endure. I will endure with it. And no matter what comes next, I will rise, and I will protect what matters most." The hearth glowed brighter than ever, resonating with infinite possibilities. The journey was far from over. The saga of magic, interrealm alliances, and hidden legacies had only just begun.